Hello, dear learners. This is slangslang.com, your free English language class. Hello, viewers. Tell me how you are. What? How you are is wrong. I should say, how are you? Okay, how are you? And now, who know the WH question grammar now? Who know the WH question grammar? Who know the grammar is also wrong? I should use some auxiliary there, huh? What's this? You have learned the basics of WH question grammar and now you are finding my mistakes. So I'm not doing the video. But let me tell you one thing. This sentence is correct. How you are. Tell me how you are. This is also correct. And this sentence is also correct. Who know the grammar. That is also correct. This is langslang.com and I'm Asghar Syed. Okay, I do the video. But please don't find my mistakes. If you're so smart, find mistakes in these sentences. So these are 10 sentences and you are noting down the numbers of those sentences which are wrong grammatically. Those questions which are wrong grammatically. Only note down the numbers of the sentences. I will say you the numbers which are wrong, so we will match it. So note down the numbers of those sentences which are wrong. Now I tell you which sentences out of these 10 are wrong. These are sentences. Sentence number 1, sentence number 5, sentence number 7. You were noting my mistakes, no? Now see. Now, what's wrong in that? Let's find out. In sentence number 1, there is no auxiliary, where he lives. And there is no auxiliary in sentence number 5. There is no auxiliary in sentence number 7. These are wrong. But those people who have written also the sentence number 3 and sentence number 9 wrong, they are correct because by now they have learned only the basics. And in those basics we have learned that after WH phrase, we have to use the auxiliary. We have to use the auxiliary after WH phrase. And yes, there is no auxiliary in sentence number 3 also and in sentence number 9 also, but I'm saying only 1, 5 and 7 are wrong. Why 1, 5, 7 are wrong and sentence number 3 and 9 are not wrong? Other sentences are correct because they have the right auxiliary at the right place, but these 5 sentences, sentence number 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, they don't have the auxiliary, and I'm saying that only 3 sentences are wrong, other 2 sentences are correct. Which sentences are correct? And these are number 3 and number 9. In the last lesson we have learned that we have to use an auxiliary in WH question after the WH phrase. Now there are 5 sentences which don't have the auxiliary, but I'm saying that 3 are wrong, 2 are correct. 2 are correct without auxiliary. So that means there is an advanced step we are going to learn in this lesson which we have not learned in the last lesson, and that is we can skip auxiliary in some sentences. We can leave the auxiliary in some sentences. So we have to know that grammar, that where we can leave, where we can skip the auxiliary. Look, when the WH phrase is itself the subject of the sentence, we can skip the auxiliary. When WH phrase is itself the subject of the sentence, when WH phrase is subject, we can skip the auxiliary. We can leave out the we should not necessarily do it, but we can skip those, and mostly they are skipped. Okay, look at these sentences again. We are talking about only those sentences where there is no auxiliary. Number 1, in the sentence number 1, there is no auxiliary. There is no helping verb. So where he lives. What is the subject in this sentence? That is he. where is not the subject, he is the subject. So you can't leave out, you can't skip the auxiliary, you have to use auxiliary. So this sentence is wrong. But in the sentence number 3, which books got popular? What is the subject? What is the subject phrase in this sentence? Which books got popular? The subject phrase is which books. Because which WH phrase is itself subject, we can skip the auxiliary. It is not wrong to say which books got popular. In the sentence number 5, which books he wrote? Which books he wrote? So what is the subject? Who are we talking about? We are talking about he. So he is the subject, and here WH phrase is not the subject, so we can't skip the auxiliary. Auxiliary is not there, so it is wrong. Because it is not the subject, WH phrase is not the subject, so we can't skip the auxiliary. In the sentence number 7 also, how many people is not the subject. You is the subject. Because how many people is not the subject, so you can't leave out, you can't skip the auxiliary. You have to use auxiliary do here. How many people do you meet daily? And in the sentence number 9, whose dog runs faster? What is the subject? Whose dog is the subject. Because WH phrase is the subject, so we can skip the auxiliary and we can say this sentence, whose dog runs faster. Whose dog runs faster. We can also say whose dog does run faster. Both are correct. So in a nutshell, what we have learned. In the last lesson, we have learned that we have to use an auxiliary right after the WH phrase. And for beginners, it is safe to use auxiliary right after the WH phrase. Today, we have learned, and because it is not the beginning lesson now, it is the lesson 2 of the questions. So we are learning another advanced step, and there we are learning in which case we can skip the auxiliary. And we have learned that if WH phrase in the question is itself the subject, so we can skip the auxiliary. I said the sentence, who know the grammar, because who is the subject, so I can leave did. So I said who know the grammar, that is correct, because there is no auxiliary required when WH phrase is itself the subject. If you are following our all lessons step by step, so you must know what the subject is, how to choose the subject. You must know whether WH phrase is a subject or not in this sentence. But if you don't know this, you have to watch that video again. You have to watch some previous videos again, and especially the subject and verb, the first lesson in the grammar in the series, and that was subject and verb. First you have to learn that, so you must know that what a subject phrase is and whether this WH phrase is a subject or not. So these videos you must watch. And the first sentence that I said wrong was tell me how you are. It was exactly not wrong. Why it is not wrong? Yes, you people are right that I have to use the auxiliary are after how, not after you. So why it is not wrong? Tell me how you are. Why it is not wrong? This is the second tip we are going to learn in today's lesson, the question lesson 2, the advanced tips that we are learning today. It is the second tip we are going to learn, and this second tip is about indirect questions. About indirect question. And what are indirect questions? For example, the question is what is your name? That is a direct question. What is your name is a direct question. If I put a starter before that, that will become an indirect question. What is your name is a direct question. Tell me what your name is. If I put tell me before the question, so I am making this question an indirect question. First I am saying something else, a starter clause. If I put another clause before the question clause, that becomes an indirect question. So we are learning now how to handle these indirect questions. For example, these can be starters before our question, what is your name? Can you tell me what your name is? I'd like to know your name. May I know your name? Please tell me what your name is. I said what your name was. So when I spoke this direct question, what is your name, with the starters, it became indirect question because I put a starter before them. And when it became indirect question, its grammar changed. Look at these three sentences, how I changed their grammar. Can you tell me what your name is? What is your name is changed into what your name is. I would like to know your name. It is totally different now. I asked what your name was. Even is changed to was. Fantastic. So we have to learn indirect question grammar because grammar is changing there. But I'll explain it in 4 points. It is not that difficult. Number one, an indirect question is not in a question style like direct question. Direct questions are in question style, but indirect questions are in normal word order. They don't change their word order. What is the difference between a question word order and a normal word order? I explained it with an example in auxiliaries lesson, and let me explain it in that way. For example, your phone is here. Is it a question? Yes, it is a question. How do you know it is a question? By my face gesture and my tone. Your phone is here. I'm not changing the sentence grammar. It is simple grammar. Your phone is here. But I'm changing my face gesture and my tone. And that tone and face gesture is making it a question. But in writing, you can't make the face gesture and you can't make the tone. In writing, as in speaking, you are changing the normal tone into a question tone or special tone. In the same way, in writing, you are changing the word order into a special order or in a question order. And how you are changing the word order? You are taking the auxiliary before the subject. The normal word order is first subject and then any verb, helping verb or be verb or main verb, anything. The verb comes after the subject. But in question word order, the helping verb or be verb goes before the subject. So when you change the word order, it becomes a question. But in indirect question, you don't need to change the word order. Means your phone is here will remain your phone is here. I want to know if your phone is here, not if is your phone here. No, not is your phone here. You are making it the simple order, that is your phone is here. When in indirect question, in the direct question you will be making it is your phone here. Now you are changing, you are taking the is at the start. I think it is enough. You can understand that in direct question you are changing the word order to make it a question, but in an indirect question you don't have to change it. Look at these examples. Tell me if your phone is here. Tell me if your phone is here. Your phone is subject and is the verb. Verb is coming after the subject as in the normal order. Verb is coming after the subject. But if it is a direct question, and that should be is your phone here, the verb be is going at the start to make it a question. Coming to the next one, what is your name? That is a direct question. Your name is subject and is the verb. Verb does not come before the subject, but in question it is coming before the subject. In the second sentence, may I know what your name is? Now your name is subject and is the verb. Verb is coming after the subject. That is the normal order. That is not the question order. The same way, why are you doing this? It is a question order because you are doing is normal order. You is subject and are is helping verb. Helping verb should come with the verb, but in the question it is coming before the subject you. The second sentence is an indirect question, so it is coming in the normal order. You are doing, not are you doing, you are doing. It is normal order. For another advanced tip, means we have learned one grammar for indirect question. For the next grammar for indirect question, look at these examples again. Notice this if, the conjunction if in the last indirect question. Out of these three indirect questions, may I know what your name is? She asked, why are you doing this? And tell me if your phone is here. Out of these three indirect questions, the third one is having a conjunction if. The first two are not having the conjunction. What is the difference between the first two and the third one? The first two are not yes no type question, they are WH question, but the third one is a yes no question. Is your phone here? Is a yes no type question. You have to answer this yes or no. But the questions, what is your name, you are not going to answer yes. Or why are you doing this, you are not going to answer yes or no. In the last question, is your phone here, you have to answer yes or no. So it is a yes no type question. A yes no type question is connected with the starter with the conjunction if. Not only if or whether. With these two conjunction you can connect a yes no type question. Other question you don't connect with if or whether, only yes no type question you connect with the starter with if or whether. Okay, so we are going to the third tip. In the third tip, I should like to let you know that in the indirect question, the whole question can be reduced to one noun phrase like this. Look at this. May I know what your name is the question, and you can make it may I know your name. Now the whole question what your name is reduced to only one noun phrase, that is your name. May I know your name? What is your name? You don't need what is your name. You are saying may I know your name. This tip is not a challenge in grammar. It is not a challenge at all to say a sentence as simple as may I know your name. It is no challenge in grammar. But just I wanted you to know that this is also a form of indirect question where the question is not required to be a full question. You can make it only a noun phrase and that will make you a question. So it is not a challenge grammatically, but it is just for your information that this is also an indirect question. Now the fourth tip is what we will learn in detail in complex sentences lesson, but because it is the part of indirect question, I am telling you here, and it is not difficult, it is very easy. Just keep in mind that if your starter is in past tense, your question will continue in past tense. In many languages it does not continue, so many different standards of English may ignore that, but native people, they continue the past tense in past tense. For example, my original question is who want tickets today? Who want tickets today? It is in present tense. Now if I'm adding this present tense question to a past tense starter, I asked, so my question will also be in past tense. Who wanted tickets today? Because the starter is in past tense, my question would continue in past tense. The starter in past tense, the question would go in past tense. Starter is in any other tense which is not past tense, you can continue your question in any other tense. But if the starter is in past tense, you continue your question in past tense. Yes, in some specific cases where it may sound funny or it may sound incorrect to use past tense for some question, you may use present tense or whatever tense, even if the starter is in past tense, like she questioned why plants are living organisms. The question is why plants are living organisms. We are not making it past, although the verb in the starter is in past tense, questioned. But we are not making why plants were living organisms, because it may sound incorrect to say why plants were living organisms, because they are living organism, they were living organism, they would remain living organism. So it may sound wrong factually to say why plants were living organisms. So we are avoiding. We can say she questioned why plants are living organisms. In another example, the children asked why its name is the Dead Sea. The verb in starter is asked. It is in past tense. But we are making the question in present tense. We are keeping the question in present tense because it may sound incorrect to say why its name was the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea's name is still Dead Sea, so it may sound incorrect to use a past tense here. But listen, practice of continuing the past tense of the starter into the question is always grammatically correct. Even in these two sentences, if you are saying she questioned why plants were living organisms, it is not grammatically incorrect. It may not mean what you want to mean, but it is not grammatically wrong. Nobody should deduct your marks. For that, grammatically, it is all correct to use the past tense of the starter in the question. So it is always safe to continue the past tense of the starter in the question, in the main question. Let's summarize today's question grammar tips again. You can note down these tips if you want to note down. In the end, I would say if you are not confident whether to use the auxiliary or not use auxiliary in a WH question, then my advice is don't skip the auxiliary, use the auxiliary. As a beginner, it is always safe to use the auxiliary in a WH question at the right place, especially in the written grammar. And further, this choice to skip the auxiliary is available only in present indefinite and past indefinite. In other tenses, you can't skip auxiliary in any case, whether WH phrase is a subject or not. How can you skip will? You can't skip the will. How can you skip be in continuous tense, the auxiliary be in continuous tense? How can you skip in perfect? How can you skip the auxiliary have? You can't. You have this choice available in only present indefinite and past indefinite. These are the 4 tips in this lesson. This is the lesson 2 of the WH questions grammar. So these are advanced tip after the beginner's lesson. We don't have any exercise in this video, but for those people who have not watched the lesson 1 of this WH questions, there is an opportunity. They can watch it here because we have produced it here. And for my senior viewers, just chill. Bye here. Hello dear learners, this is slangslang.com, your free English language class. Hello viewers, are you ready? Are you ready? Look, if I'm there and I'm asking you, are you ready? Some might say, yes, we are ready. Some may not be ready. But there might be some genius who just wake up and say, oh, what are you asking about? Ready for what? Nice. A question is answered with yet another question. Are you ready? Is answered with another question. What are you asking about? These both are questions, but they are different type of questions. We have already learned the type of are you ready? What type of question that is, we have already learned it in the last lesson. Today we will learn the other type of question. This is langslang.com and I'm Asra Sayyed. First thing first, what is the difference between the two types of question? Are you ready type of question and what are you asking about type of question. What is the difference between these two types of question? Okay, first question, are you ready? If I ask you, are you ready? You are expected to answer in yes or no. You will answer something which reply me that yes, you are ready, or no, you are not ready. So it is a yes no type question, because you are expected to answer in something yes or no, affirmative or negative. But in the other question, what are you asking about? You can't say me yes. You can't reply me no. What are you asking about? Yes. It doesn't make any sense. You have to answer it something in more detail, with more information. It needs some more information to be replied in this question. What are you asking about? So, are you ready is a yes no type question, and what are you asking about is not a yes no type question. Another example, if I ask you, have you taken your lunch? You have to answer yes or no. Have you taken your lunch? Yes. Have you taken your lunch? No. Something which replies me yes or no. But if I ask you, what was in your lunch? And you will say yes. No, it doesn't make any sense. If I ask you, what was in your lunch? And you say no. It doesn't make any sense. So it is not a yes no type question. If I ask you, what was in your lunch? You can't say me only that yes or no. You have to bring the lunch here. I mean to say, you have to bring me the information about that what was in your lunch, the details of the lunch, or something which is not yes or no. So there are two types of questions now, and that is yes no type question and the other type of question, which you can call WH questions, because the other type of question generally starts with a WH phrase. WH phrase, it starts with a WH phrase. They are generally the WH pronouns or WH adverbs that start these questions. So now there are two type of questions, and one is yes no type question and other is WH type questions. Fine. We have already learned the grammar of the yes no type question in the last lesson, auxiliaries. There we have learned that you just take the helping verb at the start, or be at the start, the verb be at the start, or some semi-models you are taking them at the start. You can make a question. I repeat in simple words that you can make a yes no type question just by using the helping verb or the be verb at the start of the sentence. For example, he's creating trouble. He's creating trouble is a simple sentence. Now if you want to make it a yes no type question, it is so simple. Just take is at the start. Is he creating trouble? So yes no type question is always very simple in grammar. You just have to take the helping verb or the auxiliary at the start of the sentence. That makes a yes no type question. But auxiliary or helping verb is very important even in the other type of question. In fact, you have to practice, you must practice as a beginner to use auxiliary in a WH question at the right place. As a beginner, you must practice to use an auxiliary in a WH question. Look at these examples, you will understand that. Is, are, were, have, will, these are all auxiliaries, and these examples show that in WH questions it is always safe to use an auxiliary at the right place. There is the grammar that you use an auxiliary in the right place in any WH questions. So as in yes no type question, an auxiliary is must in any WH question. But what is the right place for that auxiliary? Where we have to use that auxiliary in that WH question? Look at these examples again and guess what is the right place of an auxiliary in a WH question. Look at that again. Auxiliary is after what? Auxiliary are is after how many people. Auxiliary were is after where. Auxiliary have is after why. Will is after at what time. So what is your guess? What is the right place for an auxiliary in a WH question? Is there any rule? Yes, there is. You use the auxiliary generally after the WH phrase. I'm not saying after the WH word, I'm saying WH phrase. And those people who are following our grammar lessons, they know what is a phrase, what a phrase, grammatical phrase is. They know this. They know that what is a WH phrase, which is a subject. How many people is also a subject phrase. Where is a place adverb. Why is also an adverb. It is a reason adverb. At what time is a time adverb. So these are phrases. And the auxiliary is after the WH phrase what. Auxiliary are is after how many people. And like this, the other auxiliaries are also after their WH phrase. But if you don't have any idea about phrases, and if you don't want to go through our last video lessons right now, don't worry. Here we have a shortcut. Here we have a list of frequently used WH question phrases. Look at them. Yes, this is the list of frequently used WH phrases. Now what we can learn here? We can learn here two things. Number one, the vocabulary of a WH question. Because in WH question you need WH phrases. You can note these phrases down and you can learn them. This is one thing, that you have to learn the vocabulary. You can learn the vocabulary from this list. But the second thing, that is more important here, because we are learning the grammar of WH question. So second thing, we will learn that where we are going to use auxiliary in a WH question. We will, as we have said, that we will use the auxiliary after WH phrase. Look at these phrases. The first six here, what, who, how, when, where, why, these are single word WH phrases. There is only one word, and that is complete WH phrases. You are using the auxiliary right after them. For example, where do you work? Where do. After where you are using do. After when you are using will, for example, when will you come? So you are using the auxiliary will after when. For example, why are you worried? Are is used after why. But in case of this phrase, the auxiliary is not coming after whose. It is coming after noun. For example, whose car has broken. Whose car. After car, the auxiliary will come. So after the noun, the auxiliary will come there. For example, here after how you use the auxiliary. But in this phrase, you use the auxiliary not after how, but you are going to use the auxiliary after the adjective. Take the example for this one. For example, how did they enter? How did. After how, you are using did. But in this sentence, for example, you are using an adjective after how, so you will be using the auxiliary after that. How cold is the weather? How cold, how, and after that there is adjective cold, and then there is the auxiliary. You are going to use the auxiliary after the adjective. More example, for example, how old are you? How, and then adjective old, and then the auxiliary are. In the same way, you can take any other example. For example, which type of, you are not going to use the auxiliary after which or type or of. You are going to use the auxiliary after noun. Which type of dresses do you like? Which type of dresses? After dresses, after the noun, you are going to use the auxiliary. Which type of dresses do you like? And you can take any of the example from here. You are going to use the auxiliary after the phrase, not after first word or the second word. You are going to use the auxiliary here. For example, at what time do you do exercise? At what time? After at what time you are using the auxiliary do. And we can, because I'm here, so I should also tell these what on earth and why on earth. This on earth is not having a lexical meaning. It is just a style to emphasize on your question. What on earth has nothing to do with the planet Earth. It is just a style to emphasize on your question. What on earth are you doing? Means what are you doing? On earth is not giving any information about earth. It is an adverb which is just to emphasize your statement, your question. So to make a WH question safely, correctly, you have to make two choices now. You have to choose the right WH phrase, and after that you have to use, just after that you have to use the right auxiliary. For the right WH phrase, I have given you the list, the shortcut. If you don't know what phrases are, you at least can learn the WH phrases, the frequently used WH phrases, and you can choose what is your right WH phrase. But for the right auxiliary, I can't give you a shortcut. You have to go through at least one lesson, and that is tenses. You have to learn tenses as a beginner to make a WH question safely, and there you would learn what is the right auxiliary for the right tense. So, in the next translation exercise, if you find that a sentence is a WH question, because first you have to decide whether it is a WH question or not. So if you find that the sentence is a WH question, to translate that sentence you have to make right choices. Number one, the right WH phrase. Number two, the right tense. The number three, according to that tense, the right auxiliary. When you find the auxiliary, use that auxiliary right after the WH phrase. You make the right decisions. I'm taking the right direction. Bye here. This is slangslam.com, your free English language class.